Hi, and welcome back to another BNEWS special weather report. I'm BNEWS reporter Chris Flaherty, and as always, I'm here with BNEWS meteorologist Peter Brown. Peter, how are you?
Chris, I'm doing very well. How are you? Glad to be back with you with no meteorites hitting us.
No meteorites hitting us, and we survived this 4th of July heat wave as well.
We did. I've got to say we've gone through quite a bit over the past few weeks. We almost got clanked on the head by a giant. Well, not a giant, but
it still would have hurt.
And then we had 100-degree weather, 2-3 days in a row. So I'm saying we're on a roll.
And we got possibly some other curveballs coming our way.
We do indeed, yes.
So I know some people have probably heard the name El Niño in passing, but just for everyone's sake, what is it?
Okay, so I can actually give you a little bit of a history of where the term came from too. But it kind of dates back, I want to say it dates back either to like the 17 or 1800s off the coast of Ecuador and Peru. And what happened was there were fishermen that usually they would fish for anchovies, usually at the time of the year getting in towards the early winter. And they always noticed that anchovies were a very cold water fish, and they would notice that there would be some years when the water would get unusually warm. And their anchovies would completely disappear, and it would kill their fishing for the year completely. And they decided to give it the name El Niño because it went along with, it means the translation is the child, and that was because it was noticed usually happening around Christmas time each year.
It did sound festive to me, so yeah, interesting. And as you just told me beforehand, El Niño has a girlfriend, La Niña.
Yes, he does, La Niña, yes, and that's pretty much the exact opposite of what El Niño is. So El Niño is an unusual warming of the Pacific, the equatorial Pacific waters in the eastern part of the Pacific Basin. So again, waters, backing up against southern Mexico, Central America, and the western coast of South America. And then when we have La Niña, you have unusually cold water there. So basically, just like it is, switches completely, 180-degree change between the two.
So El Niño hot, La Niña cold.
Yep.
Okay. And now I understand this summer El Niño got bit by a radioactive spider and now has superpowers. So what is this super El Niño we've heard of?
Okay, so a super El Niño is, again, it's a fairly rare event. We've only had maybe a handful of them since, and if you can believe it, 1950 is the first year that meteorologists really started observing the effects of El Niño in the eastern Pacific. So this is forecast to be one of the strongest El Niño events that we've had ever since we started taking official scientific measurements of it. So basically they're expecting a rise in sea level temperatures above 2.7 degrees Celsius. Now I know the National Weather Service, even though we are in the United States, they like to do, it seems, everything in Celsius. So we are talking about a fairly decent, we're talking nearly 5 degrees Fahrenheit above what the average sea surface temperatures would be in the Pacific.
So how are we going to possibly see the effects of this in our day-to-day weather? Okay,
and it's interesting you should note that because, of course, that's all that we ask about in New England is seems to be what is the winter going to be like.
Right.
And that's when El Niño usually has its, again, it really shows up in the early winter time is when it's at its peak. So right now as we're in the summer, the equatorial Pacific is warming up abnormally, but it's not to a huge degree right now, so the effects during the summer are going to be a little bit muted. You'll see them a little bit more as we start to get towards the end of August. So if you're starting to get ready for, a nice crisp, dry fall, we could see a lot of this summer weather start to move into September and even maybe the early part of October, where we have some really hot conditions that go, almost up until the second week of October. And thereafter, it's kind of off to the races, hopefully with winter, where they are forecasting, at least the National Weather Service is looking at us to have a warmer and wetter winter than we had last year.
When you say wetter, we're talking rain, I hope?
We are talking mostly rain. There are once in a while you can get of course that oddball snowstorm that makes it through. The conditions are just right for that to happen. But a lot of times you'll get mixed precipitation, so you'll get a lot of sleet, and sometimes you'll end up getting a little of that freezing rain, which we really don't like to get. That could be more of an issue as you get up into northern New England, but at least down here where we are in the Burlington area, they are expecting us to have significantly more in the terms of rain than we would in terms of snow.
Okay. So don't need to panic yet, folks. We don't have to go get a bunch of shovels yet.
And it's interesting too that, noting about that, is that we are the furthest away from any part in the country near the Pacific. So we are the furthest away from the Pacific Ocean and the basin, and the effects of it are really pronounced when you get into the tropics, of course. So we have a lot of factors like some things that happen in the northern Atlantic affect our weather sometimes more than when El Nino is present. But again, with the forecast for this to be a super El Nino, it looks like the effects of El Nino are probably going to override most of the other weather patterns, even here.
And you mentioned we could see warm summer-like temperatures into late September, October. I feel like that's something that we're seeing a lot more in recent years. Is that a result of El Nino?
It's actually interesting to say, because we've seen a couple of years like we've noticed, we've talked about so many times, where we see a really cool start to the summer, where we had a very chilly spring this year, and then all of a sudden we got through June, it was kind of cool, and then we got into this first week of July and it was just blazing heat all of a sudden.
There's like no real transition period.
And we actually had last year, we had what was called an ENSO neutral period, which is basically neither La Nina or El Nino are really overtaking anything. And sometimes when the Pacific is just at an average temperature, which that's what it should ideally be, that's when our winter weather here can go haywire, and we can get those giant cold weather outbreaks, and we can get those huge blizzards like we just had this past winter.
Hopefully not a repeat this winter.
Oh, I don't care about all these weathermen who say they like winter. I'm not one of those ones that likes that. I don't share that opinion, unfortunately.
All right, well, Peter, thank you so much for coming in and breaking it down for us.
Oh, my pleasure, Chris. Great to be with you.
Great to be with you too, folks. Thanks for stopping by for another BNEWS special weather report. I'm BNEWS reporter Chris Flaherty with BNEWS meteorologist Peter Brown. We will see you next time.